Okay. I honestly have no idea if this is going to start. This is all so janky. All right. Welcome back to the channel. Today's episode is going to be an especially fun one because today we are going to attempt to bring this Ducati back to life. That's right, we are attempting to start this Panigale for the first time since it was very badly wrecked. And as you can see here, we have a lot of things to go back on this motorcycle. So strap in, get prepared, and shoot me a prayer this motorcycle's engine is A-okay. First things first on this Panigale, we have the whole front radiator and coolant system right here. And hopefully immediately you can see the difference between this and this. One, this is fairly empty, and two, this is fairly wrecked. And we are going to be taking this very wrecked piece and using it as just the blueprint for this piece here. What I have here is a new to me full radiator housing, as well as a nice guard here at the bottom. So I got this whole unit used off eBay just like this. So it comes with everything that I need, as well as this Evotech guard here at the bottom, which is just an added bonus. And this is gonna be perfect because it is not broken, and I can take inspiration in the blueprint of this very broken piece and install all of my new radiator and cooling systems into it and then onto the bike. Not everything here is salvageable, but it all tells a story and will help inform putting things back together, like what screws have washers, or in this case, spacers. Things that aren't necessarily clear in the diagrams, but by looking at the old, you can understand what goes on the new. Ooh, I almost forgot. With this comes this as well. So this is the radiator fan, and this also has to go onto this as one part as well. It's just gonna be the easiest when installing it on the bike. In fact, when I took this off the bike for the first time, I believe I made the comment that it was not designed well and it was not made for taking on and off. And in fact, I was completely wrong, which doesn't surprise me and it shouldn't surprise you. The way that this was designed was actually, now that I think about it, really smart. So the whole thing was built as one piece. You can take it off and repair pieces of this completely off the bike as one unit, rather than having to tear down piece by piece or section by section. You can take the whole section off. Knowing that now, I do think that was designed really well. So Ducati, I apologize. Caps off to you. Now comes the fun part, putting this radiator cooling system together and prepping it for install. The top radiator has these two tabs that slot into the brace. Then these two tabs on the bottom align with the screw ports on the brace. Similarly, the lower cooler has a bottom tab that slots into the radiator brace and tabs at the top for the screws. Before screwing in the bottom cooler, the radiator fan, or estadore as Ducati calls it, sits on top of the bottom cooler and is screwed down together with it to the brace. The lower cooler and fan combination has 3 screws holding it in place, 2 at the top and 1 at the bottom. Now that we have the entire radiator and the radiator housing all put together, we can go ahead and move to installing it onto the Ducati, which is really exciting, but there are a couple things. One of the bolts that I have to install this to the Ducati is warped. Let's see if I can get you to see this pretty good. So it's a little warped. Now, there are 2 other bolts that go in the center of the housing here and here, and I have both of those. And on top of that, there is another piece, and I don't know where that piece went to. There's another piece that goes to this as well, and that's this here. There is a broken section on it. I have this ordered, I have the bolts, I have the washers all ordered, but they're coming from Italy, so it's gonna take a little bit of time. that is not going to stop me. A bolt here or there, this piece that's broken, I can replace this afterwards, after we retrieve it. The bolts that I have are gonna hold it onto the bike for right now. And so with that, let's put this together. Having the cooling system all put together as one whole unit does make it a little less daunting, but it also does make it a bit more unruly. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get these bolts to line up under here. And that's proving more difficult than anticipated. So what I did was I brought the good old-fashioned lift. I'll try to lift it in place. This job would be a fair bit easier if the bike was lifted higher off the ground, but we're making do with what we have. Luckily, the brace lined up fairly well and the 4 screws fit in without too much fuss. The top 2 screws are mounting directly to the frame of the bike, and the middle 2 screws here are actually mounting to the engine itself. On your radiator, you have these flaps right there. They flap. And they do it on both sides. And I don't know what they're for, but right now, when this goes on this side, it's hitting it so much that it doesn't even move. It gets caught. So I'm very confused. So I believe I figured out what's going on with this radiator and those flaps. What I believe is happening is I'm missing a crucial part, which is actually coming in the mail. Again, it's part of the order from Italy, so it's gonna take a little bit of time. But there's a mud flap, and I'll put it on the screen here. There's a mud flap that goes underneath the triple tree, and that is what the flaps sit up against instead of butting up against the actual triple tree itself. So for now, I'm gonna leave it as is, because for right now, we are a good bit closer to the finish line, but a couple of these pieces that are broken or missing do need to be replaced pretty quickly. So for now, we're just gonna have to make do, continue forward, and push towards this engine getting started. We're back at it today. We're gonna get back onto the radiator because last time I was with you, we had gone ahead and installed the radiator as much as possible. We are missing a few pieces still, a couple bolts here and there, a couple plastic bits here and there. But mostly what we're gonna do today is finalize the plumbing of the radiator itself. I got a number of the parts all plumbed up, but there are a couple things still that we need to do, especially on the other side of the radiator where the main radiator hose needs to attach to it. And I'll show that to you now and we can get to it. And hopefully what we can do is get this fully plumbed up, prepped and ready to take the radiator fluid and get the engine safety covered for when we start it. Now, if I had fit the hose to the radiator prior to screwing it all in, which is what I would suggest to you all who are doing this, I wouldn't have to be messing with this bracket at all. There are 3 screws holding this bracket to the frame, and to get the best maneuverability, I did need to also unclip some zip ties holding the wiring harness. With all of that done, I could manage to fit the hose line to the radiator without too much fuss. Alright, maybe a little bit of fuss. I think we have everything pretty much plumbed up on this radiator. So we just came from the other side. I know we saw the side at the beginning, but for the radiator itself, there's not too much going on. We have this radiator put together in one big piece. So we have the main plumbing, if we can come this way a little bit. We have the radiator plumbing itself, which runs from the top to the bottom, all squared away. We have the overflow lines here at the top. You have a line that runs from the top of the radiator all the way over to the side of the motorcycle over here. So everything is already all plumbed up, and that means the engine is protected as far as heat goes. We do want to jump back and do a full oil change on this engine. I actually got... This time around, I went ahead and picked up some real motorcycle oil. I went to my Ducati dealership. That is this oil here. And this is BMW branded oil, which I know is obviously not Ducati, but the Ducati dealership that I use is actually both the Ducati and the BMW dealership, and they would be putting this in the Panigale V2, and that's good enough for me. So this is 15W50, which is what the manual calls for it. Obviously, they're calling for Ducati branded Shell Advanced 15W50. This is BMW Advantech 15W50. I don't know that there's much of a difference. Again, in the comments, call it out if there is, but this is what the dealership would be doing. This is what I'm going to be using, and it should be good enough. So let's go ahead and do a quick oil change and go from there. Oh, it is much later in the day, but we are going to continue forward with the oil change for this motorcycle so we can get the right oil in, a new filter in, and prep this engine for its very first start. So let's get to it. I'll walk you through the steps and show you what it's like to do a quick oil change on a very stripped down Panigale V2. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to go under the motorcycle here. And that bolt there is what we're going to remove and drain the oil from the bottom. Yes, we have already done this once before, and hopefully now with the right oil added, this will be the last time in a while we will have to be rechanging this oil. After removing the old filter, a new filter goes in, and we tighten her up. All right, now we gotta make sure we take the old crush washer off and put the new crush washer on. As you can see, this is another job where a lift would be great. If anyone wants to take pity on me and send me one, I wouldn't complain. Now we have the now that the oil is drained out of the engine, we can go ahead and get started putting oil back in the engine. In all seriousness, thank you so much to everybody who called me out on the poor oil choice from before. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe to these videos so that way you can be a part of the family and help me out when I truly need it. Now that we finish up on the oil change, the engine is protected both on the oil frontier and on the radiator side for coolant. We do need radiator fluid, so that's an easy fix. But we have one more thing that I thought I'd share with you tonight. We won't be getting to it tonight, I believe, and that is this here. This is not the old exhaust. It may look similar to the old exhaust, but it's a new exhaust to me. It is an OEM exhaust for this motorcycle, and I want you to know that I do listen to my audience. A number of people reached out about the exhaust, about the aftermarket exhaust that I had picked out a Tosh? I don't know how to pronounce it, but I got a flood of comments saying that that specific aftermarket exhaust was gonna kill my engine. That exhaust cost me about $1,000. And for an exhaust that was $1,000 that was most likely gonna ruin my engine, that just didn't sit well with me. And all of the trouble that would go into an aftermarket exhaust just baffled me. And so I found this one here. And this exhaust is a basically brand new OEM exhaust. It came off of a motorcycle with 250 miles on it. So it is truly almost brand new. It barely has a scratch on it. It barely has a mark on it. It is super, super clean on the inside. And I am happy to put this back on the motorcycle. So everything looks good. This, oh, so heavy. This hunk of junk is the old exhaust. And what I have to do now is make sure to get all the parts from this one that I need, the servo motor, any bolts, any nuts, any screws off of this one, put it onto the new muffler here, go ahead and install it. And then once it's installed, our bike should be ready to run. No more fiddling with it. And that to me is really exciting. One thing I actually can do is prep this exhaust to go back on the motorcycle. And really what that means is just making sure all the pieces that are on this exhaust currently are matching up with the old exhaust. Let me show you what that looks like here. I have this here, which is the servo motor. This I can detach from the old one, attach it to the new one. So let's get to that. Let's do at least that tonight. And as well, go through my bag of goodies and replace what looks like all of the nuts off of this one here. And then we should be good to go. Now, how do you come apart? This really should be fairly simple. You would think. You would have hoped. Well, let's take this plastic cover off. The cover itself is held on by 2 Torx screws. And after removing them, you can easily access the steel cable that actuates the valve. Remove the cable, then work backwards to fit everything onto the new silencer. Everything should go on as it came off, so the cover should go on first, and then you refit the steel cable to the actual motor, and then screw it all together. But don't forget the 2 washers that go on before the screws before putting it back together. We have a little bit more work to do before we can get this exhaust back on the motorcycle, and part of that job is going to be a little bit of finagling. So one of the bolts here on the exhaust is definitely stuck. This was the bolt that we had to grind away by hand last time, but what I'd like to do is at least give a shot with a little bit of heat, see if we can break that loose and get it off the exhaust. The reason we need to get it off the exhaust is these side pieces here help to hold the exhaust onto the motorcycle. I'll show you what that looks like here. So let's go ahead and give the heat a shot, see if we can get that bolt off and then get the exhaust on the motorcycle. Oh, nice. Okay. Yep. Thank you. With that final bolt unstuck and now out of the way, stripping the rest is pretty easy. It's a bit odd that all of this teardown is necessary for the install of this exhaust, but I'm no engineer. Let me know in the comments if the aftermarket exhausts are similarly overcomplicated to install. So in this front bracket, there is a bolt on this side that we never actually got out from when we had removed the exhaust the first time. But we did remove it from this side over here, so we need to go ahead and put the bolt back in its place. I am very happy to report that this bolt was as easy going back in as it was coming out. With that all squared away, I believe we can go ahead and fit this exhaust onto this motorcycle. I think that's going to be easier said than done. I know getting it off was a nightmare, and from all the videos I've seen of people taking these off, it has also been hard for them. So let's go ahead, give it a shot. So the faster we do this, the faster we can get it started. Okay. Oh, sweet Landon, how little I knew of the frustrations that were to come. The biggest thing we have to do is get these to align in here, right there. And then we gotta line up the header with the exhaust itself. All right, so what I'm attempting to do is use a strap to go underneath it. It should lift the exhaust up into the motorcycle. That's the plan right now. We're gonna try it out. So this idea actually worked out really well. As a one-man operation, the strap acted as my lift and snugged it all into place really well. There was still a bit of lining things up, like the front 2 bolts, but the strap gave it enough play that it fit it nice and quick and allowed me to do what I needed to do. These hangers here on the back were also pretty easy to adjust and allowed me to install the bolts without too much hassle. Now what we need to do is get the clamp and get these things mated together. I thought this would be easier having this off first and then putting it on, but now I'm regretting that decision. I'm gonna speed this up for you here, but just know that I am absolutely dying trying to get this clamp on. All right, so I just grabbed the old clamp here, and this is the new clamp. This clamp looks much better. This clamp is pretty beaten down. One thing that was very different that I noticed right away were the bolts. This is the bolt that we are trying to use for the new one. This is the bolt for the old one. Hopefully you can see the size difference. That would help a lot. So this new one is what we're gonna use, because this came off the old bike. Let's give that a try. I think we'll have more success with that. Success? Eventually. But ease of installation? Heck no. I think we've done it. I'm terrified, absolutely terrified. I can just barely get in there and turn it. I still can't, like, there's like no room in there. Oh my gosh. At this point, I was able to fit a ratchet in and finish up the job. The saddest thing about the whole thing is we're not even done yet. That was literally just the back end of this exhaust. We need to put the whole front part of it back on, which includes those side pieces and the front bolts. Let's do that. I'm back in a good headspace. All right, the reason these had to come off first was because this part right here goes on top of this little bolt here. So, luckily that just slips in just like that. This go here. Once this back part's on, line all this up. And finally, we can put, oh my gosh, this piece is screwed on down here. I forgot. Oh, that's a big sandwich of bolts down there. Good gracious. As we come to this side of the exhaust, there's not as many bolts to worry about as the other side, but we do have the servo. Yes, we have the servo here that we have to wire in and bolt in. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts that screw into the housing here. And this on, again, this part goes over the top here. This part bolts to the bottom. 1, 2, 3 bolts on this one. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the servo. We should be golden. Let's get to it. Servo first. First things first, we're going to connect the wiring for the air sensor and the exhaust valve motor, and then there are 4 torque screws that hold it all in place. Go ahead. After the valve motor is installed, we can move back to the exhaust and install the left side panel. We have the entire exhaust put on, screwed in, torqued down. We are good to go. And that really is the last piece of the puzzle before we can start putting things back on that are still broken, but in order to test the engine out. That's right, now we can truly attempt to get this bike started. So let's go ahead, we have the gas tank, we have the throttle, we have the display to put back on. Let's put those things on there and get this bike fired up. Fingers crossed. All right, just gotta make sure this fuel line is attached in here. Good, good, good. I have the TFT display, which is fairly cracked. We're gonna get to refurbishing this fairly soon. Let's click that into place. I think all of this stuff here, I don't think we have to worry about it just yet. I mean, it'll probably throw an error, but should probably just double check. These are horns, I know that. I think this is the light, turn signals. Okay, we have fuel, we have dash, we need, oh, the ignition. Here's one thing that I'm forgetting right now. The ignition switch, I believe, let me see if I can grab it. We have some wire damage here. I'll have to go ahead and try to fix this before we can get started. Yeah. Alright, so let's see if this thing is salvageable. Let's open it up a little bit more. Try not to cut any of the wires as I'm doing that, so maybe it would be better just to do it like this. There we go. Alright, so it's these 2 wires right here. What I'll want to do eventually is to replace this entire heat shrink right here and get that all squared away. You can see inside there's a screw. You can see inside there's a screw. We should be able to take this whole thing apart, at least down here, and that will release these wires and allow me to put a new heat shrink on there. But for now, let's see if we can't get these back together. We did some similar wiring work on the Diavel in last season, And although I am using the heat shrink option right now, eventually I'll probably want to swap these out and replace them with all new wires. For right now, this work on the wiring is going to do the trick. But that doesn't mean that other issues won't arise. Oh, I think it's in gear. Oh, it's in gear. Farts. What I've come to realize is there is always going to be one more snag. One more problem is going to rear its ugly head. It's inevitable. In this case, it was trying to find a way into neutral without the clutch and without a shifter attached. On the BMW over here, I can get it out of first gear without the clutch. If the bike is off and not running, I can just blip it into neutral or first gear, and that's easy enough. For whatever reason, it may just be because so much is off of this. The left hand foot shifter and all of that has been removed from the bike. The clutch handle has been removed from the bike as well. And so what I would like to do is see if I can get the clutch handle back on, get that working just enough for us to get it into neutral, and then we can get this bike started. So let's try that out first, and if that doesn't work, we'll have to find some other way to get it done. But for right now, that's the plan of action. Let's get to it. Finding the old, reattaching, and bleeding the clutch wasn't on my bingo list in order to get this Panigale started. But here we are. I'd also never bled a clutch before, but I'm not going to let that stop me. So on goes the clutch. Technically, this should do the job still. So we have a 12mm on the back here. For the bleed nipple, we have an 11mm. For those of you wondering, all you need to do is loosen the handle's nipple, pump the air out, tighten it back down, and repeat until it's firm. Unfortunately for me, this was not the only thing I had to do to get this bike back into neutral. I also had to reinstall the shifter. For whatever reason, I couldn't get it to work without the foot actuator. Neutral. Okay, awesome. Okay. I honestly have no idea if this is going to start. Okay, so it's in first gear right now. The clutch works. Okay, neutral. This is all so janky. All right. Hold on. Ugh. Well, it turns over, so that's a good sign. It sounds good, it's just not turning. Oh, it's just not. I'm not hearing a spark or anything. So, progress. We gotta figure out why it's not starting yet. One more try, just for kicks and giggles. We'll figure out what's going on. Maybe I'll check the spark plugs next. Yep, that's what's next. As I was thinking about this yesterday, I believe that there is one major culprit to this engine not starting, and that's the gas tank. I'm pretty sure I forgot to plug in the electronics of the fuel pump, and without that, there's no fuel. Let's check it out. So yep, there's the culprit right there. Not even plugged in. Luckily, that's a very easy fix. Let's plug that in and give this motorcycle a second try getting it started. Luckily for me, this was a very easy fix. No harm, no foul. All right, and with that, we should be able to get this bike started. So let's go ahead and grab the key and start this up. Almost, let's see. All right. Whew. Well, we definitely have a lot of smoke coming from different places. Don't know exactly where all that's coming from, but we'll figure it out. At this point, I'm just happy it started. So with that, we're gonna end this video. Thank you so much for sticking around. Thank you so much for following along with this build, the Panigale V2. Hit the smash, hit the like button, smash subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye. Goodness. Ducati, you must have babies working for you because this is like nearly impossible with grown adult hands. Get out of my way, stupid. You piece of trash. Piece of absolute garbage.